evening, good afternoon, good morning, opinion, folks. It's your man, Lloyd Judge, aka the Emperor of Female Body Talk, coming to you live on YouTube. Well, folks, we usually have a regular Muscle Talk Monday discussion, but every now and then I like to do an interview. So, because sometimes we run out of topics to talk about on Muscle Talk, and sometimes go around in circles. So, every so often, I would do interviews, for Muscle Talk Mondays. If y'all are interested in it, that's cool. I appreciate that. We have here a lovely lady. She's sitting in the wings and she's ready. And this is going to be her first time, guys. So be gentle. We have here making her debut on Must Talk Monday here and doing her first interview live on YouTube, the lovely Mrs. Lynne Buscemi. And Lynne is also, she's a competitor, an amateur EPC competitor, physique competitor. She's been competing for quite some time. She's also a coach, trainer, and also a travel agent. And she competed last year, I think, at the Universe.
Correct.
The Universe. And she's planning on competing again this year. So we wish her the best of luck in the upcoming shows. So welcome, ma'am, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
No problem.
Good.
Fine. How are you? Good. She had a lovely smile. You guys, you get a girl like this. I try to get this girl here for a long time. Finally got her. I got her to my place. But she said she's kind of nervous. I said, I'll be gentle since your first time. Sorry. So, Lynne, so welcome. Thank you for your time again. So, what got you started in the sport, as I call it, muscle and masculinity? Please share.
Wow. Well, I was a late bloomer. I did not start lifting until I was like 42 years old. I was a late bloomer. So I always say the journey picked me. I didn't pick the journey, but I've always been really intrigued by muscles. Like my favorite show when I was a kid was The Gladiator, watching the gladiators. And I was like, I would tell my parents, "Oh, I want to look like that." And my dad thought I was insane because I'm like 5'1" and 90 pounds. So, now he comes back and he's like, "I think you're a gladiator now." So, but I was about 42 when I started lifting, and I kind of owe it to some people that I thought were friends that I was a little overweight at that time. I weighed about 200, 205 pounds. And I overheard some people talking that they felt bad for my husband because I was a fat girl now. So that day I went home and was going through my closet and I'm like, oh my God, I wear size 16. Like, how did this 90-pound girl turn into this? Which, I went through some traumas, and like most people that are in bodybuilding, we've had some trauma and, bad relationships and everything. So losing my sister unexpectedly, some traumas that I went through, I was kind of drinking and taking a lot of antidepressants, and I kind of got a little bit bigger. But that day I made the choice and I just started doing all this cardio and, said I was going to eat right. And the next thing I know, I was lifting and now I'm competing. I thought I was just going to do a bucket list show as a bikini girl. I walked out. It was fun. I placed really well I think I was 44 when I did bikini. And I was like, wow, that was fun. I'm like 6 months later, I was like, I think I want to do that again. So I did a couple more. And next thing you know, I'm like, I want to get bigger and I want more muscle. And my husband's like, whatever you want to do, whatever makes you happy. So that's what I did. And here we are now.
Good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Especially your husband supported you to do that because this is tough about bodybuilding. The stream of the sport, how it changed, especially for women, and those people who were so-called friends. They weren't friends. They were just, I would say, hang-oners and haters. Because you get those type of people that just smiling faces. As the old song goes. And if anything, you made a decision to change your life and for your health and for your mental factor. Because
yes,
because I interviewed a lady who was 55 when she got into it. And that's much older than 42. And quite a few ladies, like back in the day, bodybuilders wasn't at the age. Median were like 20s and 30s. But now you're seeing a number of competitors who are coming in the midlives because I think they have that time now.
Yes.
Because you are instead of, I was talking with you earlier, you have a family,
Yep.
and what's the family like? Your kids and your husband.
So I have 3 daughters. All are married or out of the house. I have 2 that are married, 1 that's not married, and then I have 8 grandchildren. So 4 are in Arizona, and then the other 4 are here in Michigan. So it's pretty cool. I don't get to see them as much. Their mom's busy, I'm busy. We get out to Arizona when we can too. My grandsons are now starting to work out. And then just recently, I took my youngest granddaughter to the gym because she likes to go to the gym. She has a crush on one of our trainers there named Joe. So Joe's her buddy. So I take her, but
Oh,
she started working out with me, and I asked her, I said, well, she goes, I just want to be strong like you. No, no, no. I don't want to play video games like my brother, and I want to be able to take care of myself because you're strong. And so that made me feel really good that she was looking at me as like a strong woman in her life and everything, and that she didn't want to be lazy like her brother and sit on video games all day. So, but then I have my oldest grandson in Arizona who's like really getting into it. I think he's 14. And so he's really starting to get into it. And my daughter, his mother, is back in the gym working out now too, and just really enjoying spending some time with him. So when I go out there, I like to show him some new stuff and, you know, have something to talk to him because most of the time those boys don't want to talk to people, you know, but at least we have the gym to discuss and talk about.
yeah, I understand. Especially, I grew up. My mother, she had to raise us, 6 kids and 2 grandkids, and it's good that they look up to you, their grandmother, and it's also good that your daughter finds that it's helping her out and helping her connection with her son.
Yeah.
Because like there's an old saying from the movie Psycho. Remember, a boy's best friend is his mother,
Yes.
and it's good that you really are impressing on your grandkids, especially your granddaughter. Maybe in the future, she might be the next
Well, that's
future
it.
Olympian.
You never know. I mean, she loves it. She really does. I mean, she's 6 years old and absolutely loves going to the gym. I mean, she'll come to the house. Can we go to the gym? I want to go to the gym, you know? And I'm like, yeah, I'll take her in there just so she can say hi to people and just be familiar and not be nervous because a lot of people are nervous when they first walk into a gym. I don't, if she decides she wants to work out, I want her to be able to walk in there with confidence and get right in there, and the same with my youngest daughter and her family, her husband, um, they met at one of my bodybuilding competitions.
Word.
He was competing as well as me, and she had come backstage, and he pursued her for a couple months, and I was like, "Run! Bodybuilders are crazy!" And
He's, yeah, yeah. This is good what she would say. She sees this pump muscular guy. Said, "Wow, look at all
she's
those
like,
muscles, Phil. Yeah." He said, "Yeah, you like your muscles, babe."
I told her, I said, "We're nuts. We're crazy. You don't want to get involved with this." And here they've been together forever now. They're married. They have a son. They work out together too. He's a firefighter, just like my husband. They were actually him and my husband work together, and he's just an amazing guy. But they take their son to the gym. He can't go out on the floor, but he's at the gym. And he sits at a table, and he's going to be familiar with it as well. So, and then my oldest daughter wouldn't walk into a gym if you paid her to. So you could pay her. Maybe the tan, she would walk in.
Well, like I said, everybody's gonna have their different perspectives going into the gym. I think people go because from talking with some bodybuilders, it's their therapy, the place to go. It's the place they find very soothing, and it just helps in their mindset. And you mentioned your husband and your son-in-law are firefighters, so I say this to them: thank you for your service because we appreciate those type of people that do that type of work. I have my oldest niece and my youngest nephew served in the army,
Nice. God bless.
and yeah, God. I remember my mother was kind of worried about him my nephew, because he was like, that was her baby. She practically raised him, and he was over in Afghanistan. She used to pray every night for him, but he's a good young man. He has 10 kids now, so
Whoa.
yeah, he's the youngest out of the grandkids, and well, the boys, but 10 kids. I mean, he just, my sister just told me, was it last year around Thanksgiving, she said, I'm gonna be a grandma. I said, well, not the other three because they're too old. So it has to be that last one, her baby. But yeah, it is bodybuilding. It's very, it has a mix of healthy lifestyle, but also the stream of it, the
Yes.
dieting, the training. I mean, even some people say it's very dangerous, especially comes to women, because
Yeah.
it affects your body differently compared to men. Even if you are taking performance enhancers or something like that, it's just there's so much involved with it. And also, people need to understand that it's not as easy as you think it is. It's not about what you take, what you ingest. If you're not following a diet, you're not disciplined, you're not consistent. You're not going to build this if you just take, I'll pop in these pads or steroids, I will look like that. No.
Yeah, everybody just automatically assumes that if all you have to do is take steroids. Amount of young people in the gym right now running steroids and SARMs and peptides. There's a lot that goes into place with that. You have to train hard, and you don't train hard if you're on your phone, looking at your phone, because you think you put something into your body. It takes a lot of food. I have a young man that I've been coaching, 2 or 3 years, and we just did his first show. He did amazing. Took first in novice, true novice, and the open lightweight. And I'm feeding this kid a ton of food, and people automatically assume that he's just running all these drugs and everything. And he's like, nope, I'm like, food does great, and that's the one thing about having this new coach I have this year. I had the same coach for about 5 years. And then last year I decided to part ways, and for different reasons. But I think it was God's way of telling me it was time to, like, I needed kind of like that slap in the face. And I ended up with my new coach, Nate Spears, and he's out of Tampa. So this was the first time I've ever had an online coach. So I was a little nervous because I was so used to my coaches seeing me in person. Um, he's a great guy. I mean, in the amount of food he was giving me, people are like, oh my God, look at all the food you're eating, and so conservative on everything else, but the food was the number one thing. And I try to explain to these young kids in the gym, you have to eat the right way. You can't just rely on these drugs. I said, and you're so young too. It, I'm older, so if I'm gonna do stuff, I'm not having any more kids, so I don't have to worry about that. Um, but I do worry about, like, the younger kids that are doing stuff, and it makes me sad. So, and that's the one thing about my young man that I have. I'm like, you are like a son to me, first of all. I said, so your health and your well-being is number one with me, and we will get to where we need to be. He's got potential. He'll do very well. But he's got to trust the process too. So,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah, I say like this: not just trust the process, understand it, then you trust it. Because I know, like, people talk about jumping from coach to coach, but sometimes that coach can get you a certain level, but then you need to find somebody that might can get you to the next level.
mhm,
I know you and your coach had a good relationship, but sometimes it's time just to find something that might work for you. I know quite a few ladies who have with a coach for a long time, and they switch and things change. One lady we were talking about earlier, a lady who I'm a fan of, that is the lovely Miss Andrea Shaw, and she was with John Simmons. That was her previous coach. Now she's with the producer, and I think he did pretty good with her because
yes.
she lost the Rising Phoenix 6 second last year, and then she pops up and still win the Olympia. I will show you something, and this is why people this is as I go, like I said, I'm the other guy. He said, like, you do something, you never do it for free, and this is one thing I love to always bring out when I talk about her is this issue, and
My
I
favorite suit. I love that suit on her.
it was so beautiful because a friend of mine, Eunice, she was there that year when she competed at the Olympic 2023. She saw Andrea. And if you've seen my interviews, and anytime this is what makes me keep doing what I'm doing. It's someone like her who I never met. And she tells me, says, she writes and signs it, and she tells me this. He says, George, you are the best. Your support means the world to me. So see you soon and sending you love, Andrea Shaw. And she put little hearts.
She's
I
awesome.
was
She really is. Like I said, we're from the same area. Her coach was my past coach. Her past coach was my past coach. Um, I had a lot of opportunity to train with her and pose with her, and she's probably the most humble human I've ever met. I don't get to see her as much anymore because she's so busy, because she's so popular. Yes, there we are. Me, Linda, and Drea. That was at that was the Toronto Pro.
oh,
That was at the Toronto Pro. That was
oh,
Drea's pro debut. She had just turned pro in women's physique, and she needed a ride to the Toronto Pro. And I got a phone call several hours before. Hey, I said, let me move some things around. And I went and picked her up, and she'll tell you that I had her there in lightning speed. I think I made her a little nervous. We did get stopped at the border search too.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
like, we're not that stupid, people. Nothing's coming over the border with us. But
no.
but yeah, that was the Toronto Pro, and that's when Linda and Jake Wood. I think that's when they told her, you are in the wrong division, girlfriend. And that's when she went to bodybuilding. And then she went and she ended up winning what show? I can't remember what show it was that she went in bodybuilding. And then she went over to the Olympia that year. And I went right
Yeah,
with her.
it was. She won the Omaha Pro that year. That was, I think, that was
Yep.
the year before they dropped women's bodybuilding from that show.
Yes.
And then she was, I think, she was in the top 10. She won the Rising Phoenix that same year, and
Yes.
then she wins the Miss Olympia title. I
Yes. It
mean,
was
she,
awesome. I was there. It was so I just cried and cried for her. I was so happy for her. So the thing
well,
is, the first time I met her, I had walked into Powerhouse Highland Park, and I was meeting John Simmons, our past coach. And I walked in, and he's like, "I want you to meet somebody." And she came around the corner, and I looked. I said, "You're going to be Miss Olympia one day." That was the first thing. She was just stunningly beautiful, and I just was in awe of her. I was like, and she's like, "Well, I'm not even a pro." I said, "You will be pro, and you are going to be Miss Olympia." So, yep.
yeah, I can say she is stunning, beautiful.
Yes,
She really, to me, she changed women's bodybuilding.
she
She's
did.
like, she saved it in a way.
Yep.
Also, a guy who really saved it, who came in and he gave it new life, is a guy who one point I was kind of disappointed with a situation he was going to, but I'm still a fan of his because he stepped in and saved women's bodybuilding in Tampa Bay. That's one Mr. Jake Wood. Yo,
Yep.
Jake, I want that money. I
Yes,
want that gun.
he
So
did some amazing things. I met him just briefly at the Toronto Pro. Obviously, I kind of just like went and did my thing while Drea was having her conversations and changing her life that day. But I think he truly does care about the sport. I really do. I think he really truly cares about the women's aspect, and not just the men. I would like us women to be a little bit more recognized, but who knows? Time might tell. A little bit more prize money for Miss Drea, and some of Sarah. Some of the women need to be recognized for their hard work. Natalia, you had Sid Gillian, what is she, seven times, Sid?
8 times.
Eight time, wow. But these women are smart women too. They're not just your typical, they're all educated. They all did very well for themselves. So great group of ladies to admire. Sarah, I actually met her that year, the first year that she was at the Olympia, as well, and got a photo with her, and I was just in awe of her as well. So, but I have to say, Dana Lynn Bailey is my girl crush.
I
She's definitely always been my girl crush. I love her, so a lot of people, that's why I got the nickname LB, because I used to have a short haircut like her. So everybody would call me LB instead of DLB. So, and then I just derived Little Beast, and everyone started just calling me Little Beast. So,
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I know a lot of ladies have interviewed, especially who are, because that's the woman I think that got them into bodybuilding was Daylin Bailey, because she had a great look to her, great muscle, great femininity, but it evolved and changed when Julie McCarr became champion. She had a
yeah.
great look to her, and then you had Shanique Grant, who
Man,
Shanique is going to be coming back, but
back
she's
for
doing wellness.
wellness. Oh,
Yeah, wellness.
oh, she looks amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing. She'll do very well in wellness. She's got that nice little waist, so
yeah,
big legs. She's gonna do really well in wellness. But yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's just, like you said, Dana, brought this really feminine side of women's physique. It's evolved. I mean, the women in women's physique have gotten a little bit bigger, um, as opposed to what Dana Lynn was. And hurts me a little bit because I'm not the biggest person. I have small little bones and stuff, but I'm very well proportioned, and I have a really good back shot. So hopefully, I don't have the biggest legs, but I really feel like I have the full package. Um, and I think this year with my new coach, we definitely made the changes that the judges asked for. So we'll see if that second place becomes a pro card.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, every athlete has their limits of how they evolve or grow. Bodybuilding is very tough, and we understand the factors involved in it. Everybody's not going to be Dan Lynn or Andre or any others, but it's about timing, the right place, good conditioning. One thing is with the physique division, it has changed a bit. When it came in, it was supposed to be like a throwback to women's bodybuilding. Like
Yeah.
they really wanted to go back to the Linda Murray look.
Look,
You know,
yes,
yeah, But now you have some women in figure who look more like physique competitors.
I know.
Just was the weekend there was the FIBO, which over in Germany.
Oh, yes.
And yeah, I mean, I'm looking one lady, her name is Lena Ramsteiner, and she took second to Jennifer Zerna, or whatever how she's pronouncing it. I don't want to mess it up. And I actually posted on my IG that, Lena could be possibly in the future physique, because I think she's still young. I think she's not just in her, maybe
Late
her,
20s, early 30s, I think.
yeah, so she still has time to grow. And,
Yep.
yeah, and she
She
mentioned again,
maturity, and yeah, she'll definitely move to physique. Just like if you look at, I don't know if you follow her, Rachel Daniels.
Rachel Daniels.
So she's looking crazy. Like, I can't believe she stayed in women's physique. Honestly, I mean, she's put some really good size on the last couple of years, and she looks phenomenal. And she's another person that I, really like to watch. I like her performances. She reminds me of a Kai Green.
Yeah.
Um, Kai is probably my favorite male bodybuilder ever. Even though he's never won, I just like how humble and true he really is. So if I ever met him, I would probably pass out.
Yeah.
So
Well, if you heard, he's planning on coming back. I say he has to be retired. He just took a step back, dude. He's planning on
yeah,
coming back. I think he's going to shoot for possibly the Masters Olympia, or try to
nice.
do another show. So maybe get shot at the Olympia. I mean, he's a popular guy. I know a friend of mine. His name is Big Keith Williams. He know Kai. They worked out together. He actually helped him train. And and she said again, and she got a nice back shot. Here you go, guys. This is for you guys. Yeah. She
That's
said the
not
big
even seen yet. So
yeah, hey,
everyone's
we don't.
like 2 weeks in prep right now. So
Yeah, oh, well, my guys who are fan of wearing muscles, they love that. They love those sayings. So, folks, while we have her here, what we're going to do is jump into her social media for a bit. And you want to follow her, her links in the description under live. You want to reach out to her in interest and maybe support her. And also, as you know, as an amateur, she's paying for shows and travel. Sponsorship does help. If you're someone who has the means and the ways to help them out without asking no more than just helping our athlete with their potential, reach out and genuine interest. But don't be that weird guy. No weird shit. No deep pics. She has a husband as a firefighter. He knows how to burn houses. So without making it look like you make it like an accident. I don't want to be here and say, hey, why are you trying to follow me?
I do have to say, he can't start a fire. Trying to have bonfires. He can't start a fire. So you can put him out. He can't start them.
He'll put him, but he still has to act. So I think, guys, you gotta be special. So we're gonna jump into her social media for a bit. And you want to follow her, check out the links in the description of this live. And here she is. And she posted some I saw she posted a new video here. We can't play the music, folks, because you know how it is with YouTube. They don't want you to play anything here. And this is something new. And I said, wow, I'm telling you, you have great potential.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel it, with having Nate as my coach this year. I was ready to call it quits last year. I walked out. So I did Universe. I took 2 seconds at Universe. I was split center in 50 and split center in 40. Ended up in second and went over to Masters 2 weeks later, and I took a second and a third there. So I'm like teetering. And I walked out of Masters saying, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to continue. And of course, I had some friends that had booths there, and my husband was on the other side. He's like, listen, you're upset right now, which I've never been upset with a placing before, but I really felt like last year my look was good. And obviously every year I have improved. So I kind of just stepped back a little bit. My good friend had turned pro at Masters, and I kind of felt bad because I was really crabby because of my placing. But yeah, my good friend Christina, where she turned pro in women's bodybuilding. So, we went and had dinner that night, and I ended up reaching out to some of the judges from Universe and got my feedback, and I was really surprised at the feedback. It was nothing negative at all. And I told them that it was probably my last year, and the one judge is the one that told me to reach out to Nate Spears, and that's what I did. I reached out to him, and he was getting ready to do the Tampa Pro. So I didn't want to bother him too much, because I wanted him just to, worry about himself. And I knew I was in the off season, but I was going to interview 2 other coaches. And Nate reached out one day, hey, I know you're in a bad place. I was just wanting to know if you're okay. And at that point, when he sent that text, I was like, wow, this is a coach that actually cares about his people. So I ended up deciding I'm not going to interview the other 2, and I'm just going to go with Nate. And that's what I've done. And he's been awesome. He's responsive, he listens if I have a concern. Sometimes we just chat. So he's a good guy. So I just went down to Tampa 2 weeks ago. I was there for a week and actually trained with him a couple times. There's some of the Tampa photos. That gym was pretty cool. That's my friend Joe. That's who my granddaughter likes.
Joe's pretty.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so he's a pro in classic.
Mm-hmm.
So
classic. Dang,
yeah,
you look like you could be open.
I know he's a big boy. He'll hate me for this. He needs bigger legs. I do too. But so yeah, I went down to Tampa and trained with Nate a couple times, and so I work for Powerhouse Gym, so I was able to see some of the guys that I know, Eddie and John and Matt from Powerhouse there have been up to my Powerhouse several times. So it was really nice to be there. And that gym is just a totally different vibe than the gym that I'm at. So if I really felt at home, but Nate was great. He was just as humble in person. and we just had a really good time, and his knowledge and his support and his fact that he believes in me. There he is. Um, and the fact that he's like, don't quit. He's like, you're gonna get it. So, gonna take the word of the judge and Nate and my husband and just push forward.
Yeah, because like I said, it's tough when you get to the sport,
Yeah.
understanding what it takes to build a body, especially for a woman, because it's a different factor compared to men. Men, we can build muscle pretty much because we have natural testosterone. You ladies, you have estrogen, you're built softer, different, you can have babies, we can't. And this is, it's a process that it takes time. And sometimes it's good to find that right person who sees your potential and just
Yep.
maybe make those tweaks that maybe the other person didn't see. And
Correct.
from these pictures right here, you look like you're ready to prove it. I feel like you might possibly get your pro card.
I'm praying. I really am. I'm 53. I feel 30, honestly. I really do. And I feel for mine and my husband's ages, actually, I think we look way better than 90% of our friends. I know that's horrible to say, but I do feel it in my heart. That's my sister. She passed away.
Oh, sorry.
No, I love her. My client, Bree, I love her. So, so that if you go up, there's the two side by sides. That was last year. Nope, not that one. There was me right there, right there, right there.
Right here.
Yep. So that's my size difference. I mean, granted the one picture is a little bit closer, but and I was not even in prep in that picture on the right. I was in prep in the picture on the left.
We see a difference because
My back definitely, I got bigger shoulders. My rear delts are looking really good. My legs did come up. They're still just not the biggest, not the
That's
biggest.
yeah. I know everybody has things they have to work on,
Yeah.
especially when they're training. You want to bring in like one thing is more often I've often hear what's the most important thing, especially when you are competing and bringing in certain things is like your back is important. It can make or break how you place at a show. Some competitors, they might have great legs, the shoulders are round and capped, everything about being a bodybuilder, you have to fix those things that really bring out the detail as you develop it. Here we have some people coming through here. Shout out to some of my guests here. We have here my man KL the Wanderer coming through. Says happy Monday. All right, appreciate that, man. Also, we have here Nina Bina, OCB Figure Pros, and she's giving a little clap. Thank you, Nina. Appreciate your time. Yeah,
Follow.
yeah. She's a great young lady. I interviewed a while back. She's an OCB
I think
competitor.
I remember seeing her interview. So, like I said, I've watched most of them. I try to catch whatever you put
Well,
out.
Well, I appreciate that because this is like I said, I appreciate when anybody comments. I see some comments. Remember, you commented that one video I did with Christina. I said, you know what? Come on here. If you want to comment, so come on, hear your story because Christina's a great lady. I mean, she was also like you. She was kind of nervous about it, but when she gave an interview, she really, really put her heart out there. She really told some stuff that I think people needed to hear.
She's a very, very intelligent woman, and we met Masters 22. She was in physique still, and we were up against each other, and we just hit it off right away, and I always tell her, I said, you were truly a blessing to my life. She was the kind of person I really, needed to come into my life at that point because Drea was kind of like my go-to, but when she became Miss Olympia, her focus is totally like, I don't have time for this, and that it's totally understandable. Go do what God wants you to do. And that's what I tell her all the time. God has his plan for you, Drea. But so Christina came into my life at the time when I needed somebody to like bounce things off of, and what do you think? And she does it back to me, like, what do you think? We send each other every week, we're sending each other our check-ins, and I'll be like, okay, you're holding a little water. She'll be like, yeah, you are too right here, or you look fantastic. And, oh, good, I needed to hear that, so, we're, even though we're in two different states, she's still probably my best friend, really.
Yeah, we've been talking. I think she's planning on competing this year. I told
Yes.
her, hey, she's going to do masters. Say, why don't you nip some open? Take it opportunity. Say, nah, hey, it doesn't matter. Just take the chance to see how you do. It doesn't. Like I said, I've seen some ladies who are even older than you compete in the open division,
Oh,
do pretty well. I mean, one lady who I'm really cool with
I've
is
done the open. I did USA's in Phoenix and took third.
yeah. See, there you
And
go.
open. So, and met two wonderful ladies who took first and second, because they gave pro cards out to first and second at that show. So I again just missed it. That was my first ever women's physique show. So I went out there in the open. I'm like, if I could hang with these young girls, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always good to take a chance, see how you do, how you fare. You still want to do masters, that's cool. But
Yeah.
always try to take the opportunity, because you know what, you don't have to pay to do you don't have to pay to do open. That's free. You just gotta sign a contract. But in your experience, what was that like for you that first time when we decided to switch from bikini, because you did bikini, did figure, and then did physique. What
Correct.
was that? What was the feedback for that?
So I was doing just local shows as a bikini girl, and I get pretty lean. So I was kind of getting my ass handed to me because I was too lean. And so one day, one of the judges came up. He's like, you really should move up a division, go into figure. So I decided I was going to go do the Savannah Pro AM, the amateur aspect of it, get out of Michigan, get a different judge's feedback, that judges that knew me, from being here in Michigan. So Drea was going down, and I said, because it was Wings of Strength, it was a Linda Murray show. And I had done a ton of Linda Murray shows back here in Michigan when she used to have them in Michigan, and they're so incredibly well ran. So I'm like, I'm going to do the Savannah Pro Am. I'm just going to go down there and go. And so we did, and I went up for figure, and it was the first time I kind of felt like really confident, like I could flex a little bit. I came off the stage, and Linda was there with, I forget his name. He was a promoter for a show out of Tampa. And they're like, you're in the wrong division. I said, excuse me? I'm thinking they're telling me to go back to bikini, And Linda's like, you are so lean. You need to think about physique. I said, are you kidding me? I am little. I am 5'1". I think I weighed at that show like 110 pounds. She's like, it's about symmetry. She's like, it's not about, I said, I don't know, Linda. I don't know, and I ended up getting on an airplane to come back home. And me and my husband just sat there and stared at each other. And he's like, I go, what do you think? And he goes, I think you need to grow and go into women's physique. And I go, well, I can get out of heels because I hated the heels so much. So I contacted Dre and John, and I said, what do you guys think? Because back then John Simmons was still my coach, and Drea was with us. And Drea's like clapping, yes, let's go, And I said, okay. So the next year, I used the Savannah show as my qualification. That's when I did USA's for my physique. And I will tell you, probably the best move I ever made. I have never felt more confident going out onto a stage as a physique competitor, even though I'm not the biggest. I know I can hang and, you know, I, I have really good conditioning. I really do. I'm pretty well known for my conditioning. Um, so, and I like pushing my body. I do. Every year I was like, what can we do? What's going to be different? So if it's really good with your OCD, and so it's been the best thing I've ever chose. I have family members that think I'm a freak now, or all I care about is bodybuilding, or you'll get the looks for women sometimes, of well, why do but I don't care. I'm at the age now that this is all about me. And if the day my husband says, hey, I think you've crossed the line, then we'll think about it. But right now he takes me to the gym, he trains me, and he pushes me just as hard as Nate does.
That's good because you know what? It's important because I talked to ladies who told me that they even, their relationships changed because we got into bodybuilding. I know a
Yep.
couple of ladies told me they got divorced because the husband didn't like the way they were going. Family and friends are kind of funny sometimes because they will support you, but sometimes, they have backhand comments. I interviewed a young lady yesterday where, she was, her brothers were bigger than her, but they felt like small little men compared to her. She even was at a wedding for a cousin. They had to arm wrestle, and she had to let her cousin win. And his cousin's wife says, "Thank you for letting him win." It's just because you're changing the aspect what's considered feminine.
Yeah.
What makes a
So
woman a woman.
family is really athletic on both sides, my mother's side and my father's side. We roller skated. I had a cousin that was really good at football. Um, but as far as like lifting weights or anything like that, no. So, I know that some of them feel like this has really occupied my life. And it has, but for the first time in my life, besides with my husband, I really feel accepted. I moved around quite a bit as a kid. Um, it came from a pretty dysfunctional family until I moved in with my dad and my stepmom. Um, God bless my stepmom because who knows where I would have been had she not been in my life. But when I got into this, I was really like very drawn in, and when people would start coming up, oh, look at this, oh, you look, and then they would be like rooting me on, and I just started feeling like this acceptance, and I've met some of the greatest people in this sport. Out of everything I've ever done, these people are probably the greatest people I've ever met, and I think it's because a lot of us do come from some type of trauma. Um, and I think that we use this as our medicine now, and I think it's made us very humble, made us very loving. A lot of people think, because we put these bitch faces on while we're training, that we're just mean. And I'm probably one of the nicest people. I will walk up to anybody in the gym and say, "Hey, can I help you with your form? Or let me give you a pointer." And I did it for a girl, yes, was it yesterday or the day before? And she literally came up and she's like, "Thank you so much. That made such a difference." And I'm like, "If you ever need anything, just I know I look mean, but I'm not, and um so I really do enjoy being a trainer, and I do enjoy bodybuilding, and I do feel bad that sometimes that it has taken away from being able to go visit my dad or something, or going out to eat. I'm sorry, my allergies are horrible.
That's all
Um,
right. Take a little sip, but give yourself a moment. Take a little sip, yeah. That's the thing about it. There's a lot of sacrifice when you get to this sport
yeah,
because it's
it is a
time.
selfish sport. It is,
Yeah.
and, but my husband has supported me 120%.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, I mean, it sucks sometimes because he's worked extra jobs to try to make sure my competitions are paid for, because it's not cheap for a woman,
No, it's
at
not.
all.
Yeah.
Like, I need a new suit. I really do. Even though this suit that I have means a lot to me, it's starting to get a little too small, which is a good thing. And my plan was to turn pro in the suit because of the meaning behind the suit. It was designed um, for my sister and for my friend Amy, who both of them have passed away. So I really want to turn pro in that suit, but I'm like praying it fits. I've already called the girl who does my bikinis and said, I might need a suit. So
That's the thing is that even though I think your sister and friend understand, as long as you have a piece of what you have in this other suit, that may see remember them by.
yeah,
That's I think one thing is important. If you take a piece of that old suit and put it to the new one, something maybe makes it distinctive. Where which is what I'm doing this because I understand how you feel. I lost two of my siblings. My mother had there was at least about seven of us at one point. My mother had a childbirth she lost. And then my other ones, I grew up with my older brother James. He was the one who really got me into the bodybuilder because he used to be a football player in our hometown. He lifted weights, he loved muscle bags, and that really got me into it. And my sister Mary, she's my older sister, but she was the baby girl of the family. And it's tough when you lose some people that close to you. But like I said, my father would get up for 55 years, even though he was living up in New Jersey. We were down here in North Carolina. But I can understand where this sport can make you feel more, you know, part of the community. You'd
yeah,
be more inclusive because it's something different. And we meet people that share that common bond. It helps and understands about the diet and the training and everything that's involved in it. And that's a good thing.
it is. It really, I honestly, like I said earlier, I really feel like the journey picked me and it came into my life when I needed it because, of the traumas that I had gone through and was going through at the time, and then just hearing, so I thank those firefighters. Thank you for saying I was a fat girl because I'm not the fat girl now because I could probably beat you in arm wrestling. So,
It's those fighters, like Bernie Mac said, and I always quote this because this is my favorite comedian, Bernie Mac. He says, "If people don't like you, fuck them."
yeah,
That's it. Because you know what, you're like I said, your husband loved you for you,
yeah.
and that's good.
He's
That's
like,
good that you.
and that he did. He said, "I don't care if you would have stayed 200 pounds or you're this way." He's like, "I love you for the type of person you are, and I try to be a good mother. I try to be a good person. Um, you know, I try to be humble, and I try to help if I can, when I can, if I can, but." I do feel like hearing those words changed my life, and because within a couple months of just working out, I was not drinking, I wasn't taking my antidepressants, I wasn't taking my anti-anxieties, my panic attacks and depression were slowly going away, and I was coming out of my shell, but I also learned how to be a little bit more assertive, because I was always so drawn back and afraid to speak my mind. Now I have no problem speaking my mind. So, um, but it's definitely changed my life. It really has. And I like the person I am. And like I said earlier, I'm sorry to my family if you feel that I'm doing something and not spending enough time with you guys. But, the only person that really matters to me now, is my husband, and I love my family. I love my dad. I love my stepmom, my kids, and, I'm very happy that my kids are as supportive. Like my youngest daughter's like, I know this is your year, mom. I know this is your year, and my middle daughter quite doesn't understand the competition rules. She's like, whatever, mom, you look great. She's like, my friends love you, she's like, keep doing you, but I do have a good support system, and it's people like you too, that make us feel better. I mean, because we'll get some rude comments out there too. So
Yeah, I know conversations I've had with some ladies where guys, it's like a flip side. You have one side of people saying, this is some chick trying to be a man, yada, yada, yada. And you have the other flip side with saying, who's this buff chick with the hair? I mean, yeah, I'm kind of, but you know what? You do you. That's the
yeah,
most important thing. You do what you want to do. And it's good that your daughter stand by you. Have you ever come to any competitions, and and
well,
your
the
grandkids?
youngest one has because that's how she met her husband.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, backstage, and he chased her around. Um, and then my middle daughter, no, being in Arizona, she has not been able to. And when I was in Phoenix competing, she was just getting ready to give birth to my granddaughter. So we were like, nope, you won't be traveling 4 hours away.
No.
And then, like I said, my older daughter could care less unless it's got a tanning bed, you know, she don't care. So, you
What?
know,
Where
she'll
they go?
she's actually kinda mean about it. So,
Oh, what? That's her. See, here's the thing: is you're the
she
mama.
yeah, she does
She has nothing to say.
yeah,
Shut your mouth. Mind your business. Raise your babies. Take care of my grandbabies.
I
What I
said,
do is my business. I'm grown.
she's like, "You look like a man." I'm like, "Well,
Well,
you just"
that's your. Well, this
I said,
you
"You look
can't.
like a 20-pound crackhead." I said, "Who
Well,
cares? I gave birth to you. Who cares
yeah.
how I
Well,
look?"
she say like, so I'm the first man to have a baby. So
Yeah,
that's the thing is that's what it is. That sometimes I talk to ladies that tell me that family. It's one thing. It's good that you have family members that do support you, but there's always those that kind of have a issue with it. This is about you. What you found yourself something. Again, your kids are grown. They have kids. It won't be long before their kids have kids. You are living. You and your husband are living your best life now. You
yes,
don't
we are.
have the responsibility to take care of your children. They're grown. I got a brother. He still act like that. Somebody supposed to take care of him. He's only 3 years younger than me. You have to be an adult. And if anything, you don't like it, you don't have to like it. But you know what? As long as you love what you're doing and you love the growth of your body, you love competing, you love being on the stage, that's for you. And it's good that you do have people like Christine and your husband, and even your youngest daughter who support you. You know, that's a good thing because you know what? A lot of
Mr.
people don't
Joe
have that.
and Joe at the gym.
Joe, yeah, your granddaughter's boyfriend.
Boyfriend, yeah.
Yes, so Joe, I want to marry you in
My
10
brother
years.
from another. So he's a good guy. He's a one of a kind guy too. Yeah, like he's probably the most positive man you'll ever meet. It's crazy. Like I'm like, do you ever get mad? Like I think I've seen him mad one time in 8 years. I'm like, he's never mad. He's always smiling, that big smile that you saw in that photo, He's I love him. I love
Well,
him to pieces.
I learned that it takes a lot. I'm the type of person that my brother sister said, George, you don't get angry. When I get angry, when I do get angry, you don't want to be around. This is a story. I'm telling you a story. This was years ago, and this was maybe a little bit after around my brother passed. And this is a little club used to be down the way. We used to call it. It was called the Cage. But we call it Roadhouse. Everybody's good night. No one died. And one night it was me, my brother, my nephew, and niece. We went out and I was just dancing on the floor with this lady I know. We worked together. And next thing you know, I hear noise, and it's a crowded club. And I started walking, and the club would be crowded, couldn't get everyone, but it seemed like everybody just gave me a path. I don't know why. And my nephew's in the corner with one of the security guys with a cue stick. And my brother's on the ground with one guy dropping, hammers on him.
Oh,
I did this. I stick up my arm, looked the man dead in the eye, and says, "Please get off my brother. That's my baby brother. Please get off of him." Guy backed off. Now he could have jumped me if he want,
yes.
but someone like I think someone said, "George, I think that man saw something in your eyes, and I think I think he really had a second thought. Like he said, if I jump this man, will this man hurt me? I'm a peaceful person. I'm a peaceful creature, but this is my baby brother. I only have two. My oldest brother, my father's son. He's my baby brother. We grew up together, shared the same bed. We did things together. We were coming up as kids, and I didn't like somebody dropping hammers on him like he was like beating on him like he's a mule. But if I get angry, like the basic the quote what Arnold Schwarzenegger said. Somebody says, "If I get angry, my friend, you would know."
Yes.
Yeah. So now,
Yep.
yeah. So now, what's the plan? As you said, this season you're doing the universe, and
Yes.
that's in
I
TNet.
usually keep like shows on the
Okay,
down low. Yeah, like on the down no, like what cops I'm gonna do. Um, just because of my OCD. But this year I'm like, okay, I've always never announced what shows I was doing until I was there. Then I'd be like, surprise. Um, but Nate had put a post out one day and he said it's universe in 14 weeks or something. And I kind of tried to scribble it out, but I was like, you know what? I have always been quiet about what shows. I'm not going to be quiet. Whoever comes, comes. And if for God forbid, for some reason, I'm not ready 2 weeks out and I don't do it, I won't be the first person that said, "Hey, I got to wait till the next show. I'm just not ready." That won't happen because I'm never not ready. My conditioning, like I said, is something that comes very easily for me. So I'm really not worried about not being ready. But so it'll be Universe. I'm going to turn pro at Universe. Um, I really want to turn pro at Universe. If not, Masters 2 weeks later. And then if I do turn pro, we have thrown out a couple pro debuts just so we can get feedback on what we need to work for on off season. So I would definitely want to step on a stage and so I can have the feedback of you need to do this, this, and this. So I know what to work for towards the off season to do another
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, quite a few competitors. Usually, sometimes I interviewed a couple ladies that they turned pros in junior nat. And they made their pro debut at the Atlanta Pro.
Yeah.
I think just barely a couple months later, and that was pretty. They looked pretty good. They both, I think, cracked into the top 10 at that show,
Yeah.
or about the top
I will
15.
have absolutely no expectation going into a pro show. Like I said, I'm not the biggest person. I'm like 5'1". I have 2-inch wrists, 3-inch wrists. I'm very small bone, so I appear larger than I am. I think. I mean, all my friends keep telling me I'm huge. I'm like, I don't see it, but everyone's like, you put size on this year. You're like, you're big. Like this is your year. Um, especially Christine. Christine's like, your back, your legs, your glutes. So thank you, Christina. Um, But yeah, so I'm not stopping because everyone's like, "Oh, so you'll get your pro card and you'll be done." I'm like, "Are you insane? Why would I work that hard for the last?" Well, I've been actually competing for 7 years. Working out for 10. You know, um, no, I'm not done. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be that 70-year-old woman. 80. I'm gonna walk on stage as long as I can keep walking. And if I have to, I'll be in a wheelchair. I'll do the wheelchair division if I had to.
Yeah, I remember Christina. She competed at a show where a lady that was in her 70s got a pro card.
Yeah.
I know a friend of mine. She was competing, I think, at the teen collegiate show too, and she got beat out for a pro card by a lady who was 80 years old. And yeah, you know, it's about it's about that determination
Yeah.
that you want to do your best and come in your best shape and condition. It's about the hard work. It's about the dedication, the sacrifice you got to make. I know when I talk to ladies that there's times where they feel like, you know what, I can't take it. But then you get that moment where you say, you know what, let me keep on pushing. Let's see how far I go. I know ladies, I interviewed a lady who she competed for almost 40 years.
Wow.
And, she got a pro card like about 10 years ago. And she is pretty good. I know some ladies who made their pro debut just after getting their pro card. I mean, it's about where you want to go as an athlete. And as I said again, for y'all women, it is expensive compared to the men. I say this quite often. The guys got to wear a pair of banana hammocks and board shorts. That's it. Put on some tan. Y'all ladies have to be a presentation. You have to look very beautiful, very attractive. You have to mix that muscle and femininity together.
Yeah.
With the suits that's cost you not show days where y'all really expensive because you got to get your hair done, your hides done, your hair done, and not just calling the cost of traveling to the shows. And as an amateur, some competitors would do maybe 2 or more divisions and different
I
classes just to
usually,
get a
yeah,
pro card.
I will do at Universe, I will do the open and I will do 40 and I will do 50 for sure. I may jump into the 30. I may I may just do them all. But I was already invited to do the open. So I'll do the open. Last year they asked me if I wanted to, and I was going to, and something just said, nah, you're good. So I just did the two, so but I feel it this year. I really do. Like I feel really confident. I mean, there are days that I don't, because we're human and we kind of doubt ourselves sometimes, but I'm really trying to manifest it, pray on it and make peace with it too. So
Yeah, that's important. That if in your mind, you can go how far you can go,
yeah,
and if you can go to the next level, and you can do well. If it's an open when you get your pro card, great. If it's in one of the other class divisions, it's great too.
yeah.
It's an opportunity. It takes time. And often I ask you ladies, this is a question I often ask you ladies, and sometimes it's just wondering, especially you've been on that prep and you're dieting and your stomach saying, you know what, we're tired of chicken and fish, we're tired of quinoa and
Yeah.
uh and rice. We want something with some sugary and oily, something and salty. So share with my other guy, Lynn. Tell me, what's that thing that makes you stranger but makes you stronger?
I love sweets.
Who don't?
I'm horrible with sweets. I think there's a picture on my Instagram of all the desserts that I brought last year. People got me cookies and brownies, and then I made a cheesecake with so it was a cheesecake with, I took Nutter Butters, crushed them up for crust, then I lined the pan with those Nutty Buddies, those chocolate wafers, then I did a layer of cheesecake, flip pretzels, a layer of cheesecake, Reese's Pieces M&Ms, layer of cheese. It was bad. It was it was like this big. I took some to Christina.
You and Christina are sick because I remember in an interview she said that how she likes to bake and she make her daughter and her son eat in front of her. Y'all
Yeah.
are sick. Y'all are just masochists when it comes down to
My husband's like, "I can't believe you're making that, and we're leaving in 2 days." And I'm like, "I'm gonna stick it in the freezer," and I did, and, oh, it tasted so good, and then, obviously, I mean, it was gigantic, so, I only brought a couple pieces, like a piece for Christina and her husband, and a piece for me and my husband, and, um, I was like, "I'll leave the rest at home," and everybody that kept coming over, I was slicing pieces. I'm like, "Eat this," and they're like, "What is in this?" I said, "It's garbage can cheesecake. It has everything and anything." Oh, I had caramel syrup on it, crushed
Ooh.
peanuts, um, drizzled peanut butter, and everything I was craving was in this cheesecake.
Oh yeah, that sounds. Oh, my man KL, he says you're telling the wrong person about sweets, Lynn. Yes, I know. I love sweets. One thing I often say this. One of my favorites, if I get a chance to eat it, is Chinese food. I know
Okay.
it's not what they actually. It's the hood stuff they feed us. And I remember the last time I went to a place. I mean, I didn't eat it all because you know what? At one point, I was almost 500 pounds myself, and I tried to eat a little smarter. This afternoon I had a cheesesteak, for lunch, but I did have some nice, baked pork and a little vegetables and some potatoes. That was smart. But still, I have my habits. I'm not perfect. I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder, but I am trying to be healthy, lose weight. But yeah, food is just something about it. When you eat the
I
right food, it just
I love food. I love it. Like, I could ask my husband, I could out eat a you and him both.
you probably can.
I went out to eat one time with John Simmons, my husband, my girlfriend, and myself. We all went to this place and they come out with this plate full of food. It's this big, this high. It had ribs, uh, deep fried fish, um, chicken, big, huge Texas toast. And I'm eating this, and John's like watching, and my husband, and I ate my salad, and my French fries. And he's like, "Hey, they have Superman cheesecake." I said, "Okay, I'll get a piece of that too." So we're waiting, and they all had food on their plates. So I started reaching over, and I'm eating their food. And John's like, "I have never seen a female eat that much food." I'm like, "I love food.
Who
Love it."
with my interviews, a lot of female bodybuilders are foodies. Many have had dealt with issues with food in the
Yes.
past. But as a bodybuilder, food is part of the process as you grow.
Yep.
And it's important to eat the right foods because I've had you can't eat just anything. You have to eat certain things that works in your diet. If
Yep.
you're a person that might have issues with carbs, because one thing carbs, I know y'all love carbs, but it's very important for your brain because you need that glucose, but it does affect you. You don't have enough of it.
Correct.
But as your body grows and develops, it's about what you put inside of it that helps you grow.
Correct. I totally agree. And believe me, I don't eat like that all the time. I pretty much, especially when I went with Nate this year. So Nate and I started our off-season plan last August, and I have never had an off-season plan. So he gave me my off-season plan, weekly check-ins, everything. And I had a vacation coming up, and obviously he's like, when you're on vacation, have fun. Eat. I said, "Oh, I'm gonna eat. There ain't no I'm going on vacation." I was in Mexico for 19 days. So having my travel agency, I went and seen a couple different resorts. So, um, but I was like, oh, I'd never been so happy to be home back on plan. Um, but I do love food. I'm a, I love food.
Yeah. You mentioned your travel agency. When did you started that? How long you been doing it?
So I've always loved traveling. And so last year the opportunity arose, with a company to be my host agency. And so I sat down and I decided, okay, I'm going to take the courses, and I like learning all the time. I'm constantly taking training courses for personal training or traveling or whatever. Um, but right now it's been about a year. It's slow but it's going. I'm making money doing it, not a lot, but I enjoy making people happy. So just getting those feedbacks when people come back from their vacation. I think I've only had one person who was like, like my room was too hot. I'm like, well, you did go to the Caribbean. It's gonna be hot. If you don't want to be hot, I'll send you to Iceland. But I like it. So I always tell everybody, let me get you in shape and send you on vacation after you're in shape. So
Yeah.
so I like it. And it's hopefully something that I can do after my husband retires, and if he ever retires. Retired a
Well,
couple years ago. I went out of Michigan. I hope he's listening. I went out of Michigan.
the thing is about us men, we get comfortable with a job. I had quite a few jobs coming up. I worked at a gas station for like 15 years. I was a stock person, then I was a cashier, then I was assistant manager. Worked 13 years in textiles. Worked in a meat processing plant here and there. Went to school for a little bit. I worked in a strip club, and that was yeah, that was the one I think when guys tell me, say, man, you work with all those girls now. Yeah, hey, dude, hey, man, it's
Ain't
not
nothing.
always.
That's some crazy girls in there.
Yes, it is. I had to break a couple of fights between strippers
But
sometimes.
they are worse than men. So I was a shot girl in a strip club when I was
Ooh.
so I was married at a young age to another gentleman.
Hmm.
Um, and that ended very horrifically. He went to prison for trying to kill me. Um, so I was kind of like stuck with these two kids, no child support, no help from his family. He's off in prison. So I decided to go work in the strip club along with my other job as a shot girl. Whew, those girls are crazy. Crazy. I never seen so many fights in my life. And I'm like, wow, you know,
You seen it. I mean,
yeah. So
it's tough. Everybody. Like I had guys tell me, say, man, you at the club, man. I tell you, man, it's not like that all the time. Sometimes a good night, sometimes a bad night. If they're making
yes,
money, sometimes there might be issues. One girl might be getting the guy's customers, the clients. And that story about your husband. Wow. I mean,
that was
oof.
my ex. Yeah. So uh yeah, he went to prison for 18 years. So he broke into my house and attacked me with a knife. And
Oh,
unfortunately, my oldest daughter was witness to it. And she was about 5 years old when it happened. And, just glad that my neighbor was trying to get into the house because they saw what was going on. And my neighbor said, "You are one tough cookie I've never seen." I was throwing punches. I was not dying. I was like, I am not going to die. And he got away for about a week until the police caught him, and then he did 18 years in prison. I feel bad for my daughters. He was their dad, but you know, who would I think I would have been a little bit not so traumatized had it been a complete stranger. Because I trusted this person, and we were legally divorced when he did that too. So I had already legally been divorced from him and had met my current husband. So me and my current husband have been together we'll be married 30 years this October.
Congratulations. I
Thank
mean,
you.
it's good that you found, you have to, sometimes you meet some
I
people
didn't
in
trust
life.
him when I first met him. I
Yeah,
said, mm-mm.
yeah. Like I said, I've never been married. I had relationships, but I call them relations, not relationships. But if I'm with somebody, I would say I wouldn't want to hurt them. If things don't work out, you move by your business. Make sure your children are took care of. Make sure you are in their lives. Because I tell you, my mother and father was together 55 years, and and my mother said the quote the other guy, my father was a drunk and a fiend. My mother
Yes.
never liked it, not one bit. But before he passed a few years ago, we as men came together. We made our amends, and he was my daddy. I miss him. I wish he was more in my life coming up. But
It is
this
what
is
it
me.
is.
Yeah, it is. We have your comment from a man, KL. He says this. He says, you almost look like Tisha Campbell a little bit."
Tisha
Yeah,
Campbell.
Jennifer Martin.
Oh,
He said that. Also, he says, we wasn't expecting that story. Glad you're okay. And
thank you.
also, it says sleeping with the enemy story. Yeah, because I interviewed a lady a while back. Her name is Sandra, and she kind of same thing like that too. Because
Yeah,
she has 3 kids. I think she has three. And and it was her ex husband that pretty much it's sad that his thing like this.
yes.
As a man, you should, if you don't feel like a relationship working with a woman, then move on. But like I said again, take care of your children, if anything. We got another here comment from man KL. He says, I'm seeing those biceps through when you raise your arms in a second ago. There you go, KL. That's what you want to see. That's all you guys want to see. You want to see a little flex. There you go. Okay, guys, you got a little flex. Put away your tissue and lotion. You're good. So,
Uh,
but yeah, I mean, that is sad. But you know what? It's good
you
that
know,
you
but that too, I truly believe God does things for certain reasons. I really do. Um, you know, it it was a horrific thing to go through. It actually happened shortly. It was literally 3 weeks after the OJ Simpson Nicole Simpson. So the stuff was very publicized at that time. So I made the news because his own mother had left me a message. I'm afraid he's going to do an OJ on you. So I literally had the little cassette back in the day. You had those little cassette for the phone answering machines, and they had to look for him and hunt him down. And there was a big trial, and of course, he tried to say he didn't do it. That his daughter was lying, and so it was a mess, and but it definitely was something I think I had to go through to be a stronger person. You know, I
Mhm.
I like just like God took my sister at a way too young of age, leaving 2 small kids behind, you know, but she gave life to 3 other people with organ donation.
Yeah.
So I truly believe that God puts things in our life for a reason. I ended up with the most amazing husband. Like I said, he's my best friend in the whole world. Um, he would jump in front of a bullet for me. I would jump in front of a bullet for him. So we're both gonna die. So
Yeah.
um,
That's love. I love him because
yeah,
and
die
it's like
together.
says like I love Hoppo. So yeah, it's good that it's good you
I
find someone like
I just recently told him. I said, if I die before you, you better never get anybody else, or I'm going to haunt you. I told him,
That's
you're not
come
allowed to
on.
be happy with anybody else but me.
God, that's cold. That's like Rick
I-
James says, that's cold blooded. Bang bang. So yeah. But
yeah,
like your story is really is I think inspirational for anybody,
yeah,
who really gets to, because that's why I do these interviews, because people need to learn something about you women. You're not just a bunch of these big, muscular women on stage, or as some of us guys out there are schmoes, these big muscular ripped women. We get excited about you. There's an old schmo saying, Lynn, when your ladies rock hard, we'll rock hard. But but it's a sport you have to do for a passion, and you
yeah.
train and you love it. Like when you're working out, what's the day to day like for you in the gym?
So normally, I'll see a couple clients in the morning. I have to start my workout by 12 o'clock. So if I'm not working out by 12 o'clock, my OCD goes crazy, and then I train for a couple hours, I have a meal, and then I usually come back for a couple more clients in the evening. Or if I don't have clients on certain days, I have my online clients, that I'll come home and work, or I'll work my travel agency. So I got a relative that lives in Australia right now that wants to come to the United States. So I got to start working on some of the stuff for her to come into Cali and go to Vegas and then come to Michigan. So I wish I was sending her somewhere else, but but she wants to come to the States and see everybody. So I'm a really busy person. I am not happy sitting down.
Mhm.
I got to constantly move and move, and especially when I'm in preps, I don't think about things, so I tend to do like my deep cleanings and, get rid of stuff when I'm in prep, because then it just kind of takes my mind off of wandering a little bit about shows and who might be there and everything. So helps alleviate some of the anxiety.
Yeah, you just like be a little more airplanes and say, well, we're not having it. But yeah, it's a great to find something, especially what you're doing. Like, working with people, doing your business, I will say that's pretty good. This is from my man KL. He says, make sure you edit that bicep flex, George. Okay, yeah, you heard. And also he says, there you go again. There you go, got a little flex. He says, well, we guys don't know you like that unless if we personally talk with you, but we still going to be guys. Yeah, that's how it is. And like when you're in the gym, what's that, especially that particular exercise that I feel this is my best one. And that one says, bam, why I gotta do this shit?
Oh, I don't know. I like doing everything. There's my favorite workouts lately where I feel is back. I mean, back, and the gym, like I said, the gym that I'm at is kind of like it's, like the people like look and stare, but when I was down in Tampa, people were like, damn, who is that? And I was like, oh, and that's why I was told my husband, I'm like, I need to be here. Like, I need to finish my prep here. Like, this is motivating for me, like move me here now. So, um, but I just like working out. I really do. There's not really any exercise I don't like to do. Well, take that back. I hate doing abs. I hate
Yeah.
abs. I'll do cardio twice a day before I'll do abs.
What?
Yeah.
Ooh, whoa,
I hate abs.
whoa. I mean, cardio twice a day. You don't want to do abs? Here's the thing about it. Abs is a centerpiece of a great physique. I can name some great ladies in the back of the day who had killer abs, just a beautiful
Yeah.
abs. It's the centerpiece of a great physique. But I know it's probably one of the toughest ones. Often I hear the ones that most bodies least like is leg day because
Oh,
that.
because I need to grow legs. It's my favorite day.
Yeah. So
Oh,
when you say that it's your favorite day, then you're a mutant. You're one of the few who say that.
yeah.
It's tough. It's like I keep, Kale may hate me make this reference, but I love this reference because it's perfect for a bodybuilder. You remember ever watched the episode of Chappelle's Show when Charlie Murphy talked about when he met Rick James?
Mm.
It's an episode where you gotta find it. It's where Rick, Dave Chappelle's playing Rick James. Charlie Murphy's
Okay.
telling about it's like True Horror Stories by Charlie Murphy. I've seen it. You ever seen it? And where he's talking about how they met Rick James in his club. So they invite Rick over to Eddie's house, his brother Eddie Murphy, Eddie. And then there's a part where Rick is on Eddie's couch and he takes his boots and grinding the dirt in his couch. Says, "Fuck your couch, Eddie Murphy. Fuck your couch." And what happens is that Eddie and Charlie goes over and beat Rick's legs and beat him so bad that he falls off the couch and he's crawling and says, yeah, give y'all niggas any money. Say, what my legs, Eddie Murphy? That's the late day for
I'll have to
bodybuilding.
definitely, I'll have to go look for that. That,
It is one of the best episodes. Next to the time when Charlie talked about how he met Prince. That's really funny. But yeah, everybody has a process that works for them. To build. If you like, I know ladies have great backs, and they just need to work on their lower half. They have great abs, and you bring in their shoulders. And if you look at, if we talk about earlier how the vision has evolved over the years, if we look at people like Cheryl Vilgas, one lady I follow, Emily Sherbert, one year when she was competing, she looked like she could do women's bodybuilding. I mean, some ladies would say they don't want to do it because they want to put that exercise muscle. But a lady had interview a while back, and I'm really cool with her. She's not going to be this year, Sherry Priyami. Sherry was physique. She moved up. Look how well she done for her.
Or Ashley. What is Ashley?
Ashley Jones.
Yes. That girl.
I mean, she's just. I'm a fan of her. She just did an interview with a guy I know. His name is Glenn. He lives right here in North Carolina. He does interviews also. He actually did an interview with me. And Ashley just. I think it was Andrea who got Ashley to move over.
Yes.
And this is this picture right here. Wow. Ashley just wow. This is when she was competing back in 2022 in women's physique.
Yes.
And her body's just wow. I mean, just that smile, that look, and just me as a black man, I love black women muscle.
What I like about Ashley and Drea is that smile.
Yeah.
You ever just like Ashley and Drea both have these phenomenal smiles. Not that the other ladies don't. Like I love Angie O. I never say it right. Angie O. She's from Toledo. And everything, but she's a lot like me. She's a little harder and a little bit more like, I honestly don't. Today is probably the most I've smiled in a while, to be honest. I'm very straight faced, and I try to, like, when I'm out on the stage, I will look at the judges and smile very quickly, but I'm also a very hardcore, like Angie O, where I'm out there. But Drea and Ashley get out there and there's big, beautiful smiles. Like that's all you see is these radiant eyes and these big, gorgeous smiles that they got there. There's my girl. She's so pretty.
That's my girlfriend.
I know, she's so pretty. She is. She's gorgeous.
Yeah, I think, like I said again, Andrea changed women's bodybuilding. I think she really brought this great look to her. She reminds me of bodybuilder back then. Her name was Audrey Harris White. The face and the look. I got a picture of her. I melded together. I sent it to you. You might want to look at it. I got it. And there's some amazing women. I'm a fan of Angela Yo. Great person, great personality. Ashley, she's a great person. Some ladies who I still have connections and friendships with. It's pretty cool. I mean, doing this content, I get to learn some stuff. And even one lady I got a chance to meet when I went to Savannah that year was Leah Popa. I mean, yeah.
I got some photos of me and her. I like her too. She's a sweetheart.
This is why I say like this. Back in 2013, 2014, she could have been Miss Olympia, and it could have saved women's bodybuilding. We talked about this before on MuscleTalk Mondays, because she had a great look to her. No offense to Iris. Iris had a great, amazing physique, but I think they didn't like her look, especially when it comes to feminine wise. But if they wanted to, the judges could have awarded Alina those last two times, but they went with the aesthetics. And this one thing is, the judging keeps changing. Where we
That's
talk about
why I get confused.
Yeah.
I have a really nice X frame and I have a nice V taper, but I know I'm not big on the bottom, but I get the feedback, grow your legs. Well, if I grow my legs, I'm not symmetrical anymore. I'm very symmetrical, so I get a little confused, but they're the judges and I respect them. And, I mean, come on, you're looking at bodies all day long. We start all looking the same, I think, at one point. But, God bless them all. Thank you for your time, judges. I'll take your feedback and I'll work with it.
Yeah. But
That's
like
all I
this,
do.
but sometimes I think they need to really, if they're the ones who set the criteria, they need to stick to the
Stick to it.
criteria. And I know you see one thing. I think where I talked to competitors said that crossover does hurt it a bit because we see women coming from physique doing women's bodybuilding. You see women from figure doing physique. You've seen bikini competitors doing figure. You knew you had new division coming up. I don't want to speak its name because I'm not a fan of it, but I understand it's for to get more attention for bodybuilding, get more recognition because bodybuilding, even though it's kind of grown the last few years, but it's
Yeah.
still a fringe sport. Here, we got a comment from a man, KL. Shout to him. He says, I heard Alina Popa is cool. Yes, she is. Also, this is from a man, Lawrence Perkins says, Miss Lynn, keep on doing what you have love to do because your story and strength will save lives on the planet.
Well,
And
thank
also, he says this. He says, "Good afternoon, Lynn, George, and everyone on the chat. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that."
Yeah, thank you very much.
hmm Yeah,
Well,
I think. Go ahead.
um, no, I totally agree. Like, it's like as a competitor, I'm like, okay, it is what it is. The judges made the call. But when I see some of my friends and my husband, like, what is going on? So, like last year when I was at Universe, I was split center right in one division, split center left in another class. So I was like, okay, I got first somewhere because I was on one side and one side. So I'm thinking one of these, I'm taking a pro card, you know. And I left and we came back for the night show. And when they called me second, a couple of people kind of like went, what? So I was like, okay, like, and then when I went to the next one and they called me second again, they're like, what? And my husband was like, I don't get what they're looking for. I said, you're not a judge. You're not supposed to know what they're looking for. I have to send my feedback. And one of the judges did come back. Listen, I had you in first, but it's the main judge who we all know. He makes the final call, you know, and I'm like, it is what it is. I said, what do you think? What did he say to you? What do I need to work on? He's like, change your posing a little bit, go to masters. So I changed my posing, went to masters, and still ended up with a second and a third. So I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm done. And then that same judge was like, no, you're not. Contact this guy. Have a good off season. I'll see you next year.
Yeah,
So
that's good that that judge took the time and really
yeah.
told you and gave you critique and say what needed to make the things to help you get along the way. Here is from a man, shout out to man Lawrence again. He says, some judges need to stick with results as well. Appreciate that, brother. Also, he says, your husband is blessed with you in his life, and I know you feel the same. Continue to keep the relationship going for a whole eternity. Wow, he's one of I call him. He's my female bodybuilder whisperer. He really brings in a lot of good karma and
Vibes and stuff.
he's
Yeah, I can see that.
he's van. But the thing is again is bodybuilding is a tough sport. It's about brain
So
conditioning.
competitive and
Yeah, everything has to be at a certain. You have to conditioning.
yeah.
You have to bring in the looks. Your posing is mostly like who's your posing coach? Who are you working with?
I
But
I I've had a couple. I'm trying to. Obviously, Drea's going to be too busy. I would love to work with Drea again, but she's getting ready to leave for just go work with her coach. I've hit up Angie a couple times. Um, so I've been just going back through some videos of when I was with Sigillian and I was with Shanique Grant at one time and then I was with Kenny Wallach one time. So I've been pulling their videos and kind of just like rewatching their videos a little bit. I reached out to Kenny Wallach. He doesn't have any availability. So I'm hoping Angie will reach out to me, but I've just been practicing on my own. Christina Ware is going to help me too, which she knows what she's doing. She really didn't pay anyone until I think last year,
hmm
you know,
well,
so
Laura's got suggestions. Says Rachel Daniels is a great posing coach as well.
Yeah.
Also, Christina Nicole Mendoza. She,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, she's pretty good because she was working with. I think she was working with Chelsea. She also
Yep.
was working with Susan Matheson. I mean, Oh, also he's another lady he dropped. This is a young lady that I know. I didn't even her name. Robbie Costa is also well as a posing coach.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've seen. I did interview Robbie.
Send me those names, please.
Yeah, I'll send you Robbie's link. You can check her out.
Okay.
And that because Robbie's like the old school poser. She loves
Yes.
that. I remember when I
An
posted,
old school kind of person, like I said.
yeah.
I love Sid Gillian. I think she is absolutely gorgeous. When I worked with her, it was a little too feminine for me.
Mhm.
I still want to be feminine looking, but I just, I'm
Well,
not.
you got to remember she's a figure champion.
Yeah,
You really
I just
want
I'm built
somebody.
that way. But yet my routines are very because I used to do ballet. So when I do my posing routines, everything is very flowy and you know, until I get nervous. For some reason, when I turn to the back, my heart starts just pounding so hard. I don't know if it's because I normally pick out a judge and I kind of like feed on that judge or I try to find my husband. But once I turn around and I can't see, my heart is just pounding like a oh
Well, here's the thing is, you just look at the crowd. You
yeah,
look like just make them like all familiar faces,
yeah,
like family, friends, everybody rooting for you, and just see them. Don't look at the judges as they're the ones who are going to judge you. Look at somebody like maybe your dear late sister, and
yeah,
or just think about her, or think about your children and your grandchildren, and people like Chris. If Christina can't make it, think about her being there. Don't
yeah,
that helps you? Just
yeah.
think about people that really want you to succeed, and then once you feel that feeling, that love and that support,
That I
then
should
yeah,
calmly
yeah, food baba,
yeah.
food
Usa.
baba,
So,
yeah. But yeah, this is a sport. Just said again, it can be mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially draining.
yes.
And when you get into it, you have to understand it.
Yeah.
Understand all the factors that's involved in it as an athlete. And as I said again, people out there, sponsorship does help. If you're interested in sponsoring somebody like Lynn, and you feel like she is a person that you really want to give an opportunity to, reach out and genuine interest. But don't be that guy where I often talk about, which ladies tell me this because he, say, hey, Lynn, yeah, you're the little beast. Well,
Yeah.
I got a beast for you. No, stop that. Stop that, you sick
I
freak.
get equally as many women.
That's surprising.
I get a lot of women. I'll tell you a little proposition that I had.
Ooh.
I had a woman at my place of employment come up to me and ask me if I would beat her husband up while she watched for $5,000. I said, "I'm sorry, I can't hit somebody for no reason."
Hey, I'd be like Rocky Balboa. Hoo,
You
hoo,
know?
hoo.
And of course, she's like, "You can bring a bodyguard. It's not sex. I just want you to slap him around. He's gonna be tied to a chair, and then you're gonna leave, and I'm gonna have fun with him." She's like, I'm like, I don't think I can do this. She goes, "You can wear a mask if you're worried that we're gonna video record you." I'm like, "I don't think I can hit your husband," you know? But yeah,
Ooh, that's. I've
yeah,
heard some guys might maybe a little arm wrestling, some little
yes,
sensual stuff because there is a fetish world to bodybuilding. Like
yeah,
some ladies, they do OnlyFans because it's a way to make profit.
yeah,
To do other stuff. I call them as is best way to say they're the beat the meat website because guys go on there. But it's rare to hear women because women do like some of that stuff. They are into women with muscles and they're also into kind of uh,
dominating men.
yeah, BBSM or
Yeah,
and also they're into that. I think it's not you, it's not for you. Maybe
no,
somebody else might want to do it because hey, that's like $5,000. That's right there. That's your prep.
yeah.
That's right there. You can buy
I
some
know, I was
tunes.
like, "What was I thinking? That was one competition."
Yeah, It was like where your husband said, "Well, your husband can be your bodyguard. Put on the mask. Say, hey, baby, that's $5,000." So
My my daughter always jokes around. My youngest daughter, she's like, "Mom, just put a string bikini on, have Dad take the pictures. You don't have to do nudes, and get an OnlyFans. I guarantee you'll make at least 5,000 a month." I said, "I don't need my dad or father-in-law scrolling through and seeing even in a string bikini. I don't want my dad."
and then you got your 14-year-old grandson say, "Hey, you saw
Hey,
your grandma." Say, "What? What did like like we saying like teenage
yeah,
boys? Yeah, you be like like
boys,
yeah, say
basically,
this Miss Buscemi. Say yeah, like
yeah,
yeah,
my
but
poor grandsons,
yeah,
yeah,
but I think everybody finds what they feel is comfort for them,
yeah,
and you do what you do as long as your husband supports you
yeah.
and also stands by you and encourages you in your bodybuilding path. And so again, folks, sponsorship does help. Like people reach out and say, "Hey, Miss Buscemi, we saw your story, and it's very interesting what you went through, your life, your family, all that. We're a company that might be interested in sponsoring athletes, and we have a product. If the product works with your process and your training, we'd like you to use it and also be one of our brand ambassadors. So if this is something you would like to be involved in, let us know. We don't want no more than you to sponsor us, and we sponsor you, and just help you along your way."
Yeah, 'cause, nothing's more like there was a gentleman one time who was, oh, I thought he was being genuinely kind. Like, listen, I know it costs a lot of money, and I know he had some money. And he's like, how much does it usually cost? Can I help out? And I'm like, well, that would be, well, then of course,
Want something a little bit more.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I was like, no, you know,
nah.
I'm not like that. I will bust my butt to do what I got to do. If I have to work every single day, in a row to finish getting the last bit, but no,
Yeah, like I say, you're a respectable lady,
yeah,
and if you know somebody who wants to do that, hey,
that's
go
fine.
on to go on to
But
somebody
I
else.
know that there are women that have the OnlyFans and stuff like that. God bless them. I personally can't do it.
No, not it's not for everybody. It's
You know,
because it's
I give them credit. Like I'm sure you're like, I know somebody who does it for feet, and she's making $10,000 a month
yeah.
with
I
her
know
feet.
I know a lady. We were really cool. She told me, she was a fighter, and
Yeah.
she wanted to try to sponsor her next fight camp. She asked me, "George, I'm thinking about doing something." I said, "What you want to think about doing?" I think I'll do some foot stuff. I said, "Ooh, well," and and she said, "Well, I gotta be careful because she's a very public person." I said, "Well, all you got to do is this: get yourself another computer, get yourself a different email or whatever else, so it won't be the same as yours." And you go take pictures and stuff like that. And, as long as your husband's cool with it, do it. I mean, there is some guys who are into feet. I'm not into feet like that, especially you got corns and stuff like that. And,
Yeah.
some guys are into it. That's not my thing. I just
No.
love the human body. I love the vegetation. I love things about it. Yes, as I said again, I am a muscle person smile. But, it's up to you where you want to do as a person and in your life. Here, shout out to my man. I just text Robbie right now for you, Miss Lynn. I'm just wait to see what she she said. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Also, thank you, Lawrence.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you. So if he's because
Yeah.
he follows me on IG, he might send me a thing. If Lynn responds, if Robin responds, then she's like I said again, I'll send you the link later to check you out, and also a
Okay.
couple other links you want to check out some of the people.
Yeah, definitely. Please.
Yeah. So folks, we're not gonna hold the lovely Miss Buscemi. In relation
Buscemi.
to the Buscemi, in relation to the actor.
So he is a distant relative of my husband's. Yes. He was
Ooh.
also, do you know that Steve Buscemi was a New York firefighter during 9/11?
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah. That was
So
before that
he
was
has
like
a big, huge organization that he had developed and everything like that. So, yep.
yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
great movies that you was
I
in.
always say when I'm on the phone, I'll be like, "Hi, this is Lynne Buscemi." Oh, like the actor. I said, I'm much cuter than he is.
Well, you are, but he
No.
does some great movies like
Oh, he's
Reservoir
awesome.
Dogs.
He's great.
I remember he was on Sopranos.
Yes.
The Big Lebowski.
Yep.
Great actor, legend Fargo. I mean, I'm a movie buff. I like By particularly, I like action movies like that. I do like good comedies and good mysteries. I often quote movies like my favorite is the scene at the end of in Rocky Balboa where he's talking to his son. It's not life's gonna beat you down, but it's not. It doesn't matter how hard you think it hits, how hard you take the hits, and keep moving
I
forward.
have that poster in my meditation room.
Yeah, keep moving forward. Rocky, hey yo,
Yes,
Adrian,
yes.
yeah, hey yo, Rocky. That movie inspires
I
everybody.
was a kid. I saw every single Rocky movie, and my dad. I can't believe I didn't work out at a younger age because I literally was so intrigued. Like I said, with gladiators and Rocky, and I was the females with muscles, and my dad was like questioned my sexuality a couple times, and I was like, "It's just amazing, Dad. I love muscles, and I would sit there and say, I have little baby biceps, and you know,
Yeah. I interviewed some ladies from like Eastern Europe, like Czech Republic, Germany, so that they tell me that it was movies like guys like Sylvester Stallone and Arnold
Arnold
Schwarzenegger and and
Schwarzenegger,
Dolph Lundgren,
Val,
Val. Yeah, yeah. Those was the ones that really inspired those parts because bodybuilding saw as very suggestive in that part of the world. But it was really because you watch your movies, they were really back. The movies have changed now. You got see that guys like The Rock and you got Jason Statham. He's pretty cool. He's
well,
always
my husband just cracked up because we started watching Stranger Things. We're way behind everybody in the world.
mm.
So we binge Stranger Things. My husband's like, "Is that Kai Green?" I said,
Yeah. I
"Yeah,
think he was in. Yeah, he was in that. Yeah,
yeah." He goes, "Kai." I go, "Honey, yeah, Kai Green. That's what he does now. He's an actor.
yeah. He acts. He still
He's an
promotes.
artist." Oh,
Yeah, he really has made his wealth outside of bodybuilding. And that's the thing is, it's hard to do that. You look at, like you think about it. You look at guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Lou Ferrigno.
yeah.
Arnold. Even though I'm not a fan of politics when it comes down to the women's bodybuilding and also the other women's divisions, I know everybody pays attention to the TNA division. That's wellness and bikini.
Bikini,
But
and the new
yeah,
one.
excuse me.
Yeah.
I understand it's about trying to get more,
More
but
money. And,
yeah, and get more attention. But here's the thing: is you're gonna have the divisions that end up looking like what bikini is now in another 3 or 4 years.
yeah.
Instead of just maybe stick to the criteria that are set for the divisions, tell the women bikini, hey, either you move up or you go to what the standard is for that division.
Yeah.
Same thing with women physique. And I'm looking at people like Lola Montez. I follow her.
Oh,
And
yeah.
her,
Oh,
wow.
and she's beautiful too.
She's beautiful. She got an amazing body. I mean, wow.
Does.
Yeah, Jessica
She's
Reyes
so confident.
Padillas.
Oh my God, she is so confident too.
Yeah, I think she could possibly, but here's the thing about Lola. One thing that holds her back, she does do OnlyFans.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot of political thing. You know that you saw Missy Trescott's
Well,
moving
that's
over.
like the one thing that Drea really kind of hammered into me early on was always be positive. I mean, I could still have a bad day, but if I was to post about it, I try to make it into a positive. And I learned to leave politics out of my Facebook. Once in a while, I might put a funny meme or something, but um, I don't want to be judged for something that somebody else may find offensive. So most of my posts are usually on how I'm feeling. I like to blog a little bit and, put my feelings out there because this is the most I've talked in I don't know how long. Um, but, I'm a pretty quiet person. So I like to write, and I feel like my point comes across a little bit better through my writing. I've had poetry published before and everything. So I tend to try to make my post a little bit upbeat and stuff because the judges do look, like you said, if you have an OnlyFans or if you're into something that they don't find that will be a good representation of the Olympia, they're going to kind of, even though you might be Olympia, material, they're going to pick somebody else over you. So you got to watch and that's what I'm trying to hammer into like a couple of my younger clients right now. Keep your personal life off of Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, I think, especially young people, they're in social media. Like with me, I have to be on social media because the fact is, that's how I make my connections. That's how I post. Just saw a friend of mine sent me the link for an upcoming show coming up this weekend. I might watch it because I know a couple ladies might be competing in that show. I'm really cool with. And I one thing I often I quote is one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite movies. It's Batman Begins. It's a part where Lee Meese, who plays Ra's al Ghul, he's the one who teaches Bruce Wayne to become Batman. He says, be aware of your surroundings all the time, young Master Wayne. Never give full sure footing for a killing blow. And the thing, I have to be aware of my surroundings when I get into stuff. When I do interviews, I always try to see, let me see what I know. Let me get some information about this person before I get it because I don't want to be going in here blindfolded. And then the information you drop, I really get to learn something about what you went through and your stories and your ex-husband and your relationship with Andrea. I always feel like I get surprised when
Yeah.
I get the opportunity to talk to you ladies. So, folks, we're not going to hold much too longer. I know
No.
busy day.
I,
Yes, you gotta eat, gotta feed the machines, you gotta feed the beast.
I got a meal due.
Yeah. So this is a question I'm gonna ask you. What would you want for yourself out of bodybuilding as a whole?
Just to keep developing mentally, emotionally, and physically. The pro card would be amazing. I don't need, I don't have a lot of followers or anything like that. I don't need the followers to feel important. But as long as I keep evolving as a person, I think that's what I think that's what really has made me a more understanding person is bodybuilding because of meeting so many different people. So as long as I evolve as a person and stay true to myself because I love what I do, and I think that's the number one thing for me. Pro card would be awesome, but it's not my priority. My priority is to be a good person.
Mhm. Well, that's the thing is, that's all you can be. Just be the best person you can be.
Yep.
You can only live for yourself, not for anybody else. It's good that, you, again, you have support of your husband, of your daughters, of your grandkids, guys like Joe and your coach and anybody else around your family. That's good. The people who have issues with them, that's on them. If they don't know you, that's why I do interviews because people need to get to know who you are. And this is an opportunity for you to share your story. Somebody might get to see, like I say, somebody might see this interview and says, hey, maybe a judge says, you know what? I think she has a great physique. She has great potential. Maybe we try to push her up into that IFB level, you know. And like again, if you don't get a pro card, I will say good. If you don't, hey, Bible is not going anytime soon. You always try, or you feel like you say you want to keep on pushing till you're pushing that walker on their stage. Keep pushing on. Keep doing what
Yep.
you want to do.
Yep. For sure. For sure. 100%. Till I can't. And you know, I just like what I do. I really do. It's like I told you earlier, it's the first time I really feel like I belong and have been successful at something. So, I like it.
Mhm. Like one of my favorite fighters back then, Mike Tyson said, "I just like to fight. I just like to fight. That's all. I just like doing that. It's like beating guys up. It just makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta love what you do, especially for y'all ladies. Said again, not as much as what comes. It's not a lucrative sport. I mean, it's not a lot of support unless you are a particular division. Like I said, I always say about the men's division, it's the bottom. If you know the pimping game, the
Yeah.
men's division is the bottom bitch. They're
Yeah.
the ones who always get the money and get the attention. You see guys like Derek Lumford walks away with $500,000, where you go to show like the Olympia and Andrea and Sid and the other girls get like $50,000. So the other divisions, but
It's
you
sad.
know, yeah, it's sad, but we all know it's about what who and the promoters put their money behind the certain divisions that they feel like they can make the money off of back. And we just lost a few shows this year. I'm kind of disappointed about it. The Rise of Phoenix changed this whole thing over from I think it's going to be not as an invitation, so we may not see Andrea compete there this year.
Correct.
And well, I understand, but thing is, as long as you ladies have a fighting chance
Yeah.
as long as you have people out there who
Well, I
really
think
want the
as long as
opportunity.
Jake Wood can, like I know that recently at first, I think it was the Tampa Pro was going to cancel WBB.
It did.
and then Jake and
Alina.
came in with and sponsored it. You
Yeah.
know,
I got says, yo, Jake, yo,
yeah.
Jake.
So as long as we have Jake Wood and people like Linda Murray and Alina Popo and you know, hopefully women's bodybuilding does stay around. You know, I'd hate to see Drea work as hard as she has worked and them say she's got to at least get 10. Okay, she's got to get 10. You know, she's got to be the world record. She's got to get 10. You know, then they can get away with it as long as my girl gets 10 or more. But I think Jake Wood has done really well. I think he, you know, has the best heart of all the athletes, but I think he's trying to get the women a little bit more recognized.
Yeah, and also the ladies have to fight for it because I've talked. People tell me that some ladies don't really put in the work that they should. They just think it's going to be given to you. Nothing's given to you.
No.
If you don't work for it, you don't speak on it. You don't really put a fight for it. What you expect.
Yeah.
If you're not, and also
I think what happens is us as women feel if we were to say, let's just say that Jake Wood was this big jerk, okay? We know he's not. To say like people like Andrea and Sarah and all the girls with Jake and said, you know what, we're done. We're underpaid for what we do. We work just as hard. We want more money. We deserve more money. Jake, well, guess what? I'm just not gonna have you guys at the show because my 212 and my open and my bikini girls and my wellness girls are going to still bring me money and guest, So I think that's what kind of gets the women a little bit afraid is the fact that if we kind of stood up, would they shun us? Because I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger already has. He does not like women's physique. He does not like women's bodybuilding. He's made it known that he doesn't like it, and
what to Arnold, fuck his feelings.
I haven't gone to the Arnold since he said that, so and I won't.
Yeah, I know Drea has to go because she works for Mutant. I know Andrew was there because she does she hangs out with our powerlifters. I understand that, and I know some people go because they want to like we talked about.
I just can't, like I think it was disrespectful, and there's something for everyone, Arnold.
Yeah. As long as you got shows like the Rising Phoenix and Arizona Pro that give y'all ladies opportunities. Shows like Triple O Dynasty. Yes. I watched that. It's a great show. The Vancouver Island show is coming up this weekend. It's also physique, women's bodybuilding, and wellness. As long as you have those promoters that's willing to give those you ladies a chance, y'all good. Yes, it's going to be a struggle. Like anything's going to be a struggle. And also, I said there's guys out there who are fans. Get from under it. Don't be ashamed of how people make you feel about what you feel about these ladies.
Correct.
If you're a fan of them and people saying, hey, you like these weird muscles, are you gay? This is a beautiful lady right here. No. How can I be? I mean, it's one thing if I was like, I do have a man crush on Vin Diesel. That's a different situation. But,
I have a girl crush. It's okay. We're allowed.
It's okay. But it's just about recognizing athletes who deserve the opportunity. And I know ladies, you don't want to shake the boat. You don't walk the boat. But sometimes we don't do nothing. Like my mom used to say, a closed mouth doesn't get fed.
Correct.
So
I wish all these Olympian women the best of luck. I know Drea's going to win again this year, so
no doubt.
But there's some up and coming girls that look amazing in women's physique. So Sarah, I love Sarah. I love Natalia. I like those two battling back and forth. But there's a couple others that I'm like, Rachel Daniels is one of them. So
Monica,
yeah.
Some say I felt she fits the standard.
Yes,
she fits the standard for women's physique. She has a beautiful physique, great lines. Just her girlfriend started following me on IG. Chris Bully, shout to her. And Rachel Daniels, you mentioned another lady I know.
What I like about Rachel, her stage appearance is just there. Like I said earlier, she's like a Kai Green. You wait for her to come out. and perform, so to see her walk that Olympia stage, and I think it will happen this year for her. So I hope it does. I'm rooting
Yeah,
for her.
yeah. I know she's doing Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Yeah, I think she might. If she doesn't get in qualification, she also tried New York. But I think
Chicago is coming too.
yeah.
So Tampa Pro
Mm-hmm.
got a couple that she could hit.
Yeah, it's
So
good. Tampa probably best because she's right there. That's where
yeah,
she's
she's
at
right.
now. Yeah, yeah. So we do appreciate the lovely Miss
I
Buscemi. If
appreciate you. Thank you so very
you
much.
have anybody you want to shout out before you let you go?
I just want to say shout out to my husband, who I love with all my heart. Shout out to my amazing coach, Nate Spears, for believing in me and kicking my ass, and making me realize that I can eat food and not get fat. Um, and obviously my kids and my grandkids, and then my brother from another Joe Russo. So
Joe.
Joe, my daughter's boyfriend, my granddaughter's boyfriend.
So
So
she remember when she's in. I said,
those
Joe,
are the
never.
people that are, and Christina, I've mentioned her several times, the people
Yeah.
that, I talk to on a regular basis, and I love all my clients. I have the best clients, the most supportive clients, like literally, that anyone can have, both online and my in-person clients, are amazing. So just thank you to the people that support me. I love you guys a lot.
Well, that's good. That it's great to have them. I want to give a shout out to my guests that were here in the comment section. My man KL the Wanderer, Mina Bina, Lawrence Perkins. Anybody who watched this video, follow me. Follow also Lynne. Subscribe, support Path. She's also on YouTube, so maybe someday we get her to maybe do some more YouTube stuff. Come on, you got a YouTube account. You can post some stuff.
Maybe like July 5th when I'm a pro, I'll come back.
Do it now. Do it now. Do it now. While you still, because you want to get your foot in there. You want people to know who you are. But like I said, take your time. Like I said, YouTube can be a mess. It's like with the algorithm for what comes to this stuff here, it's not as big, but take your time, put out the content, let people. That's one thing. You have to promote yourself if no one else can promote you.
Yes, exactly. Well, I thank you very much for your time.
Well, ma'am, to quote my man, my hero, the greatest hero. I'm a big fan of his, the Dark Knight himself, Batman. He says this. He says, you never have to. Yeah. And also one of his guy that completes him. He's like to say, Lynn, I want to tell you something. You are beautiful. Yeah, I'm seeing specials about him. I don't know. I know what I'm gonna do, but best of luck, and I hope everything goes well for you. And maybe your husband finally say, you know what, it's time to hang up the axe and go down to Tampa.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. So, folks, I appreciate everybody who's here who watched this video. Share the comment. Support Lynn in her upcoming competitions. Reach out in genuine interest if you want to sponsor her. Make sure it's something that will help her out, but don't be that weird guy. A husband works for the fire department. He has an axe. Her son-in-law. I don't want to be hearing no stories about some guy getting
My
strung up.
son-in-law's a big boy, so
Big boy. I don't want to hear anything about Joe. Joe be smiling and beating on you. Say, hey. But people support all these ladies in the sport and these men too, who are passionate about themselves and who want to present themselves. So reach out with genuine interest and just realize that they are not just men and women. They're athletes. They're somebody's mother, somebody's grandmother, and somebody who loves the sport of bodybuilding.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyway, folks, this is your always George Page, aka the Emperor of Female Body Talk. Don't like, subscribe. I'm out. Good night, good luck, and
Peace out.
Peace.